Hey everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful day so far. I am just dropping this special little clip into all the episodes. So, no matter what episode you're listening to, this is actually pretty current as of July 2024. I wanted to come on here and just say a big thank you to Earworthy because the Life Shift podcast was just named the best overall podcast of the year in the first Earworthy Independent Podcast Awards. And you've probably seen some articles written about the Life Shift podcast before, written by Earworthy. And now he is launching from his online publication, he is launching these yearly winners of independent podcast awards. And these are specifically for indie podcasters. We are those that wear all the hats. We create the show. Some people write the show. We're producers, sound engineers. We troubleshoot all the tech. We do any kind of research if we need to. We host the shows. We distribute the shows. We do all the things that relate to our shows because we love it. And it's so nice to see my name in a list with some other amazing podcasts like Multispective, which won Best Life Lessons Podcast. Salad with a Side of Fries won Best Health Podcast. Bippity Boppity Business won Best Business Advice Podcast. And there are so many more. And so I just want to come on here and say thank you to Earworthy for not only doing these awards every year and just honoring some of us indie podcasters that sometimes feel like we're just shouting into the void, but we're not. We're just doing what brings us joy, and hopefully through that work it brings other people joy. In my case, for the Life Shift, I hope that each episode finds the ears that needed to hear it the most so that they feel a little less alone in their circumstance. But also, Earworthy writes all these amazing publications pretty much weekly, every week, every weekday, I should say, where he writes on Blogger, Medium, Substack, Tumblr, Vocal, Many Stories, and for other places. And he really just highlights the independent podcasters. So thank you, Frank, for everything you do with Earworthy and for recognizing all of us in the first Earworthy Independent Podcast Awards. If you'd like to read more, please head to medium.com/EAR hyphen WORTHY. Thanks again and enjoy this episode.
Their deaths were for me to bring me to this point so that I can talk about the hard things in life. So I can talk about grieving and heartbreak and loss in a way that is straight head on. Let's dive in and deal with this rather than deny it.
My guest today is Audrey White. She's a grief coach and an advocate for open conversations about grief and loss. Audrey's faced and overcome unimaginable loss, but she's really turned this personal grief into a tool for helping others navigate their own life shifts. Audrey shares her journey facing the tragic murder of her brother and the loss of her parents, among many other family members during the pandemic. These events shook her world to its core, leading her on a path to seek understanding, healing, and eventually a mission to guide others experiencing their own loss. This is not an easy story to hear, but I think it's a crucial one. It's a tale of loss, of pain, but also of recovery and finding purpose in the face of this loss. Before we jump into today's conversation around grief and empathy, I wanted to thank my Patreon members, Tracy, Mickey, and Emily, for not only being fantastic friends, but also sponsoring 2 episodes a month. The Patreon community is one of the easiest ways to directly support the show and its production. So as you probably know, I do all the elements of the Life Shift on my own, so any support that you could offer is greatly appreciated. If you're interested in checking it out, please visit patreon.com/The Life Shift Podcast, and you'll find all the information there. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Audrey White. I'm Matt Gilhooly, and this is The Life Shift, candid conversations about the pivotal moments that have changed lives forever. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Life Shift Podcast. I am here with Audrey today. Hello, Audrey.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I am good. We were just discussing kind of like how our mornings have gone so far. And sometimes that good response is my probably trauma-based response of like, this is what everyone's expecting me to say. I'm good today. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you've experienced that.
Oh, completely. And yet I think I'm at this point where it's like chaos is going to happen, and it is all good. It is all good.
Because we've pretty much survived some of the hard moments, and we're still here and we're kicking, and we've learned from those moments. And so these little mishaps of maybe not the greatest of sleep, or these little gnats that are flying around my office right now, I think we can make it past these.
I think we can. I think we can.
Well, thank you for wanting to be a part of this journey. We were talking before recording of how this journey is really informed by my own upbringing and the losses that I had, and how I responded to those losses, and my failure at grieving what someone might deem properly, but also my ability to reflect on those moments and be grateful for what I learned through that process. And so I know that your story is a really tough story, but it has brought you to who you are and what you are today and what you're doing for people. And I just am so grateful that you wanted to just be a part of this. So thank you before we even start.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to be a part of this community with you and your listeners, where we all are going to be touched by grief if we haven't already, in one way, shape, or form. We're all going to experience it, and I think it's so important to talk about it, to talk about each of our experiences, which are, it's this whole spectrum and of what it is for each of us, and it's all valid, because our grief and our experience is our own. And so this comparative stuff that we get into in this world, it doesn't serve us, and it doesn't serve I think when we do that, we invalidate our own experience. And it's so important to go, all right, well, mine isn't like yours or yours or yours, but it's mine, and this is how I feel, and my feelings are valid. And it's so important to honor that.
I agree. You know what? Someone told me recently on one of these conversations where he was telling me something very tragic that happened in his life. And I did the comparison thing like, oh gosh, I can't imagine. Yours is so much worse than my experience. And something he said really stuck with me. And he was like, you know what? We all kind of do that. But if you think about it, all of us are going through the worst moment we've ever experienced at that moment in time. So that's the worst moment. You can't imagine someone else's worst moment. You
Yeah.
know, your worst moment is your worst moment. It can't get any worse for you, right? And so it's hard to make those comparisons, but I like that he said that to me, because it really makes me think, okay, well, you're right. That was my worst moment, and that, that's as much as I can experience right now and handle right now. And so I thought that was really helpful. But to your point, I'm happy that maybe now people seem to be a little bit more comfortable sharing the messy parts of their lives, or the hard parts, or how they're feeling, like really feeling, and not just
Yeah.
like what they think everyone else wants them to hear, even though I said good when you asked how I was doing. I think, but
Yeah.
I think when people need to be vulnerable, I think I'm seeing more of that now. I don't know if you are as well, but I'm kind of hopeful.
I am as well. I think there is this movement. I mean, thank you, Brene Brown, for talking about vulnerability and being brave, right? And really bringing that into the conversation, like everyday conversations that we have, bringing it into the workplace. And I'm hearing it more and more. Even from the CEO of my company, my day job company. Let me just put it that way. That it's like, how do you bring your best self to work? And I had another C-level, one of our chief research officers, talking about his mom, and he teared up in front of everybody. And I'm like, isn't that beautiful? And I made a point to say thank you for showing your humanity, because, you know, I think every generation we build upon each other, right? And so there was a time when my parents' generation, it was everything was behind closed doors. Good Lord, you don't air your dirty laundry. And now it's not so much, I don't think about airing dirty laundry. It's about, here's what I'm struggling with. And realizing that no matter how the details of our life look, we're all struggling with something. We're all moving towards something. So we're doing the same thing. It just might look different. And I really believe it's that essence of healing ourselves so that we can heal our communities and the world at large.
I mean, it just goes to the point that there's so much more we have in common than we
Yes.
have in our differences. And a lot of it is just a human experience. Like we're going to have all the emotions, and all of the emotions are valid and okay at any moment in time, and it's how you react with them and around them and acknowledge them in your life that makes them, makes you move through them in an appropriate way that feels right for you and authentic. So I agree.
Yeah, and I think it's that also that recognition that, for your listeners, like, oh, I'm not alone. And it's this feeling of like, I thought I was the only one. And I mean, I grew up like that, feeling like I was the
Same.
only one. And you start realizing like, oh, this isn't normal maybe, or this isn't, nobody else is really having the same experience. So let's talk about it,
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of, I love that segue that you created for us about talking about it because I love to get into kind of your story. But before you kind of paint the picture of your life leading up to the first significant pivotal shift in your life, maybe you can just kind of tell us who you are right now and what you do without giving away too much in your story. And then we'll have you paint the picture.
Well, I'm truly committed to helping people through their grief, their trauma, their heartbreak, and paving a path to peace. I mean, that's if I can find peace in my life by the tools that I've learned through the Grief Coach Academy and through my support system, I know that it's my dedication to help others do the same. And, we talk about grief. Sometimes people just say, oh, well, it just takes time. Well, it does take time, but it also takes intention and it takes tools that we're not taught. And so I'm really committed to teaching people tools that they can, just practical tools that they can use to help them shift their mind, to shift their life, and really find some peace, find joy again, and find an excitement for living after some of the hardest moments of their lives.
I think it's really helpful. Before we get into your story, it's just like when I was a kid, no one around me had the tools to help me after my mom died, and no one was helping them. And so it was just so much of my early, like those years closest to when my mother died, I look back on them and I feel like the people around me were just trying to make me happy, right? They were just trying to buy me things or take me out to eat or take me on vacation, or like if he's happy, then he's okay, which then as an individual, I absorbed as, oh, I need to prove to everyone that I'm
Yes.
okay and happy. So put on your mask and have a good time for the next couple decades before you figure this out for yourself. That's not the journey that you should be taking. So I love that you're helping people in their most vulnerable state saying, "Hey, look, here's a bunch of tools. Try them. See which one works for you." And, and try to implement that. The word that you said though that I think is so important is that intention word, because you really have to want and be ready and to like just dive in because it's not easy. It's not. So
No,
anyway,
not at all.
thank you for what you're doing for the world though.
Oh, it is. Whew, I still get chills about it. It's an honor, and it's. I truly believe that my purpose here is to serve, and this is how life has brought me to this point to serve. And the tools are for individuals. They're for therapists or anybody that's working with people that want to help people. So other coaches, just to have tools in your toolbox so that we can together, communally help more and more people in this world.
Well, maybe you can kind of inform us how you got there, because I think your
Yeah,
story really it plays a giant part, I would assume, in what you do now and why you're so passionate about doing it.
absolutely. It's been interesting, the more podcasts I do and the more I really talk about this. One thing that's come up for me is realizing that even when I was a little kid, like I wanted to talk about the hard things. I came from a family that was very conservative and it was just that time, right? In the 70s where when I was born in the 60s, but growing up in the 70s where it's like you didn't talk about your stuff. And I'm like, but dad's an alcoholic and there's all this chaos going into my life. I want to talk about it. And I learned really quickly, as you did with your story, that we don't talk about that here. So I think that was always just a part of who I was in terms of I want to talk about the hard things. And then you kind of fast forward, and my first experience with knowing that I wanted to work with grief and loss was when my dad died in 2005. I wasn't ready for that loss. My kids were in they were growing up, they were young, and I was in my 30s and just felt like, oh gosh, I'm not ready to lose my parent yet. But in the moment when he was dying, had a brief illness, and my mom's falling apart, my brother's falling apart, all of this is going on. There was something that happened where I had told my mom, I said, Mom, death is just birth. And we know how to do birth. And this holding vigil and this is the pains of birth. We're just birthing them to the other side, whatever that may be for you. But it's just the process of the letting go and the becoming of what's next. And so I don't know where those words came from. But in that moment when he was passing, I just held him, hand on his heart, hand on his head. And for the first time in my life, I felt I knew why I was with this family. It was like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is why I felt like the outcast or the black sheep or whatever you want to call it. I'm here because they don't know how to do this and I do. For some reason, it was just innate. And that's what I knew I wanted to work in grief and loss. I just didn't know how to get there.
In those growing up experiences where you were kind of shut down, were you ever able to talk about the hard things? Was there an outlet in your family at all that you were able to bring those things up? Or was it always just like
It was totally squashed.
everyone?
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting that, I mean, that says a lot. That something that was a fire stayed a fire and
Hmm.
stayed in you, because I think a lot of us get shut down on things very regularly, and then a lot of us just kind of give up in that way. So it's that's why I asked that question, because it's, like, so many times people pour water on our fires and they never come back, but it sounds like yours was just kind of simmering there for this moment.
Oh, yeah, I truly believe in. Thank you. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. It really never left me. And, as the youngest of three kids, my oldest brother was 15 years older. My middle brother, who had another long story, but seceded from the family, as I like to put it, he was 11 years older. So I grew up pretty much as an only child. And so there wasn't anybody that I could really talk to. And plus with the trauma that I had gone through, I knew it's like we don't talk about this. And so I learned really early on to take on that role of, oh, they can't handle it. So I just need to deal with this, right? They've shown me they can't handle it. So it's interesting, but I truly believe that that's why I'm able to do the things that I'm doing now.
So when your father was dying, you looked around the room essentially and was like, oh,
Oh,
this is why now is the time. Now is the maybe possible opportunity to let that fire out a little bit and help. Were
yeah.
you able to? Like, were your family members receptive to this at this point?
Um, yeah, they were.
Okay.
Because before that we didn't really talk about it, and but even still, it was like it. I felt like that was the opening, but I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't personally have all the skills and tools that I needed to really be comfortable to talk to my mom about what she was going through after her partner of 50 some years had passed. Or, my brother and we had always been really close, even with the age difference. But he was able to see me not as the 12-year-old anymore, in his mind. And so we became a lot closer, which as we were going through our adult life, we became each other's rock in the world. So in that way, yeah, I mean, I had that eventually, but I didn't have the tools until, kind of fast forwarding until I think it was 2019 when I was dealing with heartbreak and lawsuits and being in debt from an ex who really, you have all these hopes and dreams when you're with someone. And I really believe that with how I grew up and the trauma and the just what I experienced, it kind of groomed me to, well, it's my responsibility to just love is me sacrificing everything, every last thing of myself, like bleed me dry. And that then you'll know that I love you. Well, there's people in this world that will take that and they'll take everything and they'll take everything and they'll take everything. And so I was really left in a state where I was really doubting myself. I had, I was doubting my intuition. I was my self-worth, everything was just, I felt like the shell of who I used to be and definitely who I am now. But I had to go through that to reach out and actually find some help. And the universe kind of brought me Aurora Winter, who is the founder of the Grief Coach Academy. We were in a class together, and I didn't know her, but she had these books on grief, and it was just immediately drawn to her, and she went, "Oh, these are for you." And it was just such a beautiful moment. And I immediately, like, we had a conversation the next day. I signed up for this going, I don't know how I'm going to do this because, like I said, I had a lawsuit and debt and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it doesn't matter because I know that this is the path. If I feel this pull, I have to do this for myself.
How did you find the ability in that moment? I mean, I'm projecting here. I'm thinking of myself in a moment in which, I put this, I'm pretending to be you now. I put all this energy into this relationship and I pour my entire soul, I give everything up essentially in this way of like my being and trust in myself and those kind of things. Was there ever a moment in which you like resented the abilities that you had or like that fire did like, oh, see where you brought me, fire inside? See what you
Yeah.
did to me? Was there ever, because I feel like I've been in situations like that in which I was like, those things that I now rely on have also brought me into this space where I've kind of been burned in a different way. Did you ever have any of that like resentment of like the way that you felt, but also like it seems like not because you trusted yourself to go this other direction?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was some, I think for me, the resentment comes from, or the thing I hate the most to hear, you're so strong.
Hmm.
Because it's like, I've had to be strong. I've had to be
I didn't
strong.
choose to
And
be. I had to
I didn't
be.
choose. Yeah, I had to be. And because I'm still here, we're still here. And it was this really belief that I have to save myself. I can't rely on somebody else. And I did that and it didn't work. And so, how do I come back to myself? And I didn't like myself at the time. I needed to like myself. And then I needed to love myself.
Did you not like yourself because you looked at yourself or that awareness of like, I just gave up everything for this person. Why did I do that?
Why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I think that
Such
that?
shame we put on ourselves.
Yeah. And that shame is so hard to crawl out of. It is so hard to crawl out of that. And when I met Aurora and we had the conversation the next day about here's what I'm going through and here's where I'm at, she gave me a sense of hope, you know? And she walked me through a process that we use at the Grief Coach Academy that I use with clients, I use with myself, I use with friends of it was enough to, it's called the peace method. And it was enough to just like take out that one brick to let a little bit of light in, to give me a little bit of hope that life could be different. And just that one conversation really changed my life.
You know what? The visual that I get is like this closed off version of you where that fire inside is struggling to stay lit. And then you have the crack of the oxygen to let the light, to the flame of the candle gets a little bit brighter. It's not like lighting up the room, but you can probably take a couple steps with it. That's the
Yeah.
visual I get.
Yeah.
Was it something about her approach? Was it story based or was it, like here's not, forgive me, here's how I fix you? Or was it more like, here's what I went through and here's the experiences that I went through that you connected with and gave you hope?
Yeah. It was definitely her experiences on why she created the Grief Coach Academy. I mean, she lost her husband when He was 33. He had a massive heart attack in their bed. They had a 4-year-old. And so hearing her story and how she survived and learned how to thrive and then to give back and help others, I'm like, I want that. I want that from myself.
The power of stories, I mean, validating the Life Shift podcast, it's like we share our stories so that we can hopefully like you said, let someone feel that they aren't alone in their circumstance. And so you hearing her story, you're like, it's not the same, but I felt the same. And look at where she is now and look what she's doing. Maybe you added a little trust to that hope and you're like, let's go.
And I looking back on my life, and I think it's really important that we have this ability to kind of look back and go, in these pivotal moments in my life, I've always had, and for me, it was mostly women who have just went, I see this in you, and I know you can't see it in yourself yet, but I'm going to hold this for you until you can come here and hold it yourself. And so I've always had this stair or this bridge of these amazing, really strong women in different ways appear in my life to go, I'm going to hold this for you. And now for me, that I love that analogy, and I love being able to do that for other people. Because when someone's breaking down and falling apart and their world is falling apart, there's a part of me inside that's like, oh, this is so good. You just don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to be able to put yourself back together the way you want, and not the way we were taught or domesticated or how we were, how we grew up. You actually get to decide what you put back
Oh, it's
for
so
yourself.
impossible in the moment though. You can't, it's
No.
like, that's never going to happen. Like it just, there's such dire straits. And for someone to be willing to hold part of that heaviness with you
Yes.
or, alongside you, or just like hold your hand and be like, look, I know, I get it. And we're not going to do it all at once. And it's, we're going to try little things each time. So,
Yeah.
I
And
love
you'll
that
get
she's
there.
kind of changed that trajectory for you. Was she able to, clearly she was able to kind of help you through the
Yeah.
grief of losing yourself. It really wasn't about the relationship, right? It was more about,
No, it was about losing myself, and why did I allow that? You know, and to some degree, I mean, this is, you know, years later, I'm still kind of like, oh, now I understand. Like you put the pieces together all the time, right? It's like, oh, the trauma from my childhood, and this has, it's like, oh, I was totally groomed for this, in a way. And it was like the perfect storm. It's kind of amazing to look at it that way. And
she kind of helped you with the grieving of losing yourself. And I mean, I know that's not even the most, I mean, I don't know if most is the right word, but there's more significant
there
shifts
are.
that coming. But, that seems to be the first time where someone else saw you and saw like, not the word potential, but like something like you can do this. Like you
You can
can
do
make it through,
this.
you can create your own journey. And that probably gave you a little bit of confidence too in that fire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, just learning the tools that we're never really taught. We're not really taught how to be a human in this world and dealing with our emotions. We're not taught how to deal with the hard emotions. I think especially as women, when I was growing up, you know, any kind of anger or intense emotion, it's like, oh, that's not acceptable. Let's tone it down. Or,
Can you shift that to crying, please? Like I feel like,
yes.
and it's the opposite for men. It's like, can you shift that to anger? Because that's more acceptable.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it.
And it's different for, men and women. It's different for, in different cultures, what's acceptable and what isn't. And but we're not taught tools of how to manage it, and how to, we for the longest time I really believed my thoughts because I thought they were real.
Well, they were valid at the
They were
time.
valid, but they're not, I didn't know that I had the power to change it. And so going through the training, it really helped me go, oh, I can shift this. I can shift this. And how empowering is that? And how empowering for someone who is going through their own personal hell right now to go, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. It's just giving some hope to someone. And, so that really gave me a base to work from. And little did I know that I would need it, and the entire world would need it when the
Yeah.
pandemic hit in 2020. So to kind of continue with the story, as the world was shutting down and we were all in this state of what's happening, we lost our connection with community, we lost how to be in the world the way we knew. And it was this collective grief that we didn't know to label as grief at the time. While that was going on, I was also losing family members left and right. I lost 8 family members in 2020, and it was preceded by my dog dying like the end of February, which ripped my heart out. And so it's just like, and then it was an uncle, or no, it was a cousin, and then an uncle, and then my cousin's wife, who I know just died from a broken heart.
Mm.
And it was another cousin, and then it was my aunt, and then 13 days later it was my mother, and 6 weeks later it was her last sister.
Mm.
And we knew that all the sisters were going to go. Like all us cousins were like, oh shit, it's going to happen, because they're not going to want to stay if they're not there together.
Compounding the 2020,
Oh,
like, is it ever going to end? Are we ever going to, like, what is life anymore? I can imagine losing all that, but then also not seeing a future because you don't
yeah.
know where we're going at this
And
moment.
you couldn't come together to grieve. You couldn't come together to celebrate people's lives. And, the caveat to this is, and this little bubble that we had with my mom's death, is that even in the middle of COVID, we had an amazing death with her. The hospital just kind of, she ended up getting pneumonia and she couldn't swallow. And the hospital just kind of looked the other way and let my brother and I be in the room with her. And they shut the door and let us do our thing, which was amazing and lovely. And so it's in such contrast with what most people were dealing with in terms of death and loss and saying goodbye during COVID. But with my mom, because I, one, wanted to speak the hard things, and 2, had these tools and to finally really talk about grief head on, I told her, like, once we ran all the tests and we knew what was going on, I'm like, Mom, you can't eat. You can't even take a sip of water without choking. We're in our final moments. We really only have days together. And are you ready to die? And for her to go, yes.
Oh, wow.
She was like so excited about it. And so I'm like, well, all right, let's do this then.
Yeah.
And but there's such beauty in acknowledging what's happening. One, it gave me freedom to go, I'm going to follow her lead and what she needs, because I'm going to be around when this is over and I will
Right.
deal with my own grief.
Right.
But what does my mom need in her final days? And for my mom to say, to embrace the last moments of her life so clearly and so head on, it was such a beautiful thing to see, because we were able to talk about so much. I heard stories I had never heard before. We sang and we prayed and we laughed. There's so much laughter. And it was just really beautiful. It's such a different experience than the way most people go about death in our society, which is
It's
like
not going to
deny,
happen. Right.
deny, deny. Oh, and now that it did happen, are you over it yet? It's been a few weeks. Like,
Yeah. Move
you
on.
know,
It's time to.
yeah.
Did you find that your experiences, like with your father passing, combined with your own losing yourself and then finding yourself again, do you feel that all those pieces together prepared you for
Oh,
facing this in a
completely.
like a, I feels like it was in like a confident way, like, let's go, like, this is just another thing we're
Let's
going
do
to do
this.
together.
Right. Right. And to be able to just, you know, go through this head on and not deny what was happening. My mom and I and my brother talked about our father's death, and how different it would have been if we would have known that he was dying. But the medical community didn't tell us. We didn't know, and I didn't have the awareness to really push it and ask.
Do you think he would have faced it similarly to your mother, or do you think it would have been a different experience in that
I think it
moment?
would have been a very different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very, like, it feels very, like, I feel like I can relate so much to this experience with your mother. My mom died suddenly, so I didn't understand death. I didn't, I like went through all the motions with everyone else as this 8-year-old and didn't really understand that. And then totally just took 20 years to really grieve that. But when my grandmother, who became like my best friend, like the closest person ever to me and like a mother to me, when she was diagnosed with cancer, it was very similar. It was like, okay, we know there's a timeline. And when we
Yeah.
got really close to the end, when I could see that things were changing and she was changing and her mind was changing, I sat down, like everyone left. We had her last birthday party with her, and I sat down on her couch and I was like, I'm not leaving yet because we need to have the conversation that everyone regrets not having, because I don't want anything left unsaid. And we spent hours just like telling each other how much we loved each other and thanked each other for all these, like reminiscing and
Yes.
all that. And that allowed, I mean, she died a couple months later. I spent the last 96 hours of her life sitting by her side. But all the things that I wasn't able to do with my mom dying and all the things I was sad about growing up, I felt like now's my opportunity. Let's go. She wasn't like your mom
Yes.
and be like, let's go, but she knew and we knew. And I had to force that because I knew what it's like not doing that. And so I felt
Right.
so like grateful to watch, like you said, what did you say? It was like the birth, it's like a birth.
It's birth.
It was like I watched The Last Breath and I was just like, this is,
Hmm.
I call it devastatingly beautiful. Like it was just
Yes.
so beautiful to be there, even though your heart is falling into a million pieces. It's like, wow, like what an honor to be there in that moment. I don't know if you felt
Yeah.
similar at the very
Uh,
end, but
Absolutely. It's this exquisitely painful beauty
yeah,
of being with someone during their last moments in this form, and knowing that it's really okay. They're okay. This is just a part of life. And we deny it so much and we fear it so much that when it comes, so many people don't know how to embrace it. And for me to be able to embrace this with my mom and kind of pull my brother along with us on
yeah,
this
I'm sure he's
ride.
grateful. Yeah.
I think he was. It what it did for me, even after my dad died. I tell everybody I love them. Like how I usually, even in my day job with my people that I work with, okay, I love you, and I'm like, oh, shit, it's his work. But
It's
it's
okay.
it's such a beautiful habit that I have of always wanting the people around me to know that I care about them, because we don't know what the next moment is going to bring. We truly don't. And I never want the people around me to ever doubt what I feel, or for them to not have heard it from me directly. Like, I love you, I value you, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being in my life and what you give to me. So I totally make it awkward all the time. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, having that experience of having, like, it's weird to think about your experience with your mother passing and the things that you were able to do. And I say it's weird because society, like you point out, that's not like how most people kind of approach death. And it's important to point out that you can be multiple things at once. I'm sure you were so sad. I'm also sure there was a part of you that was happy that you had those moments, that you were there for that, and like you can have all those things at the same time, and that's okay. We don't have to be like broken and fall on the floor. We can walk out and do normal things still being sad, or still, like still holding all those pieces
Yeah.
together.
It's like holding this dichotomy, right? Two opposing opposite beliefs all at the same time, and still being able to function and move forward in your life. it's the hardest things we're going to do, you know, and yet it builds this ability and our belief in ourselves. It did for me to go, I can do hard things. In fact, that's what I'm built for better, for worse. Like you, like we said, it's like, I hate the word, you're so strong, but life built me for this. And then, you know, to kind of continue, because I wish I could say that that was, you know,
But I mean, I'm sure
the
it taught
end
you
of it.
something. It put for lack of a better term, another notch in your belt of tools and skills, which is feels weird to say, but there is a process and there is something that works for us. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know it's not the pinnacle moment that really shifted everything for you, but it
No.
it it certainly played a large role, it seems, because you were really able to do what sounds just so beautiful for
Yeah.
a devastating moment.
Absolutely. And again, it was being able to, in that moment, talk about the hard things and go through the hard things head on, and not deny it, not push it away, but just embrace it. And I think when we can embrace the hard things in life, there's a gift there for each of us. When we can truly just, you know, turn to the monster in our dreams and go, all right, what do you have for me? Because I'm tired of running. I'm tired of denying. I'm tired of this, because it takes so much energy from us to push something away, rather than let's embrace it. And what do I need to learn? What are the gifts that you're here to teach me? And can I still find beauty in this painful moment?
Before you jump on, I feel like we're so conditioned or so taught to worry. And it's that monster, that worry monster, it's just like everything that could possibly go wrong becomes part of your worry. And it's just like the things that go wrong, yes, they are terrible. But I think the manifestation of that worry can be even more detrimental than the actual
Yes.
moment. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I relate to that how I was conditioned to just worry about like anything that could go wrong. But
Yeah.
things are going to go
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. It's true. Like,
Bad
this is
things are going
part
to
of our
happen.
human experience, right? Like, we're not going to just, we're not here to live. And I think this is the lie that we're taught, right? That we're going to have this beautiful, perfect life, or that's the goal, is to have a life and create a life where there isn't any pain or any, you know, any humanness to it. And yet that's not, I don't believe in that anymore. I just believe that we're here to experience what life has to offer us, because it's going to offer us a whole variety of experiences. And are you able to find the beauty in it?
I think that's what I was going to say. Perfect is not the right word, but I feel like these experiences are what make a full life,
Yeah.
whether we want to say it or not. I tell people all the time that if I could go back to 1989 when my mom died, I probably wouldn't change anything because I know who I am now. I know what that moment, not that I want that to happen, but I know how different my life would be. And it, in some ways, it maybe it wouldn't be as good or as fulfilling or whatever it may
Right.
be. So it's hard, but I think these bumps in the road really shaped who I am and make that fulfilling life for me. But
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
move forward in your story to
Let's
see
move
how.
forward. Oh my gosh. So, 2 days before my mother passed, I found out that the company that I was working for was acquired. And so, for the whole next year, in the middle of COVID, our small company was acquired by a large company. And so then you have swaths of people that I've worked with for years gone. And you send an email and it's like, oh, I didn't know that person was gone. So again, it's this whole year of loss in some in a big way, of the culture that we had created as this company, as this loss of the people that I had worked with and loved seeing and interacting with, loss of my team. So it was a whole nother year of that. come 2022, I was like, I've had enough. Like, just I need a break. And I finally I went to my doctor, and he's like, you need a break. We're gonna put you out for a little while. So I took some medical leave, and I'm so grateful, one, that I have the ability to do that, and that I had a doctor that was supportive to say, you need to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
And I'm going to help you and guide you and give you some tools. And I knew to advocate on my own behalf, to
That's big.
go, I'm going to break. And how do I not do that? I've pushed myself to as far as I need to go, and now it's me. So that's what the beginning of 2022. And so I'm like, all right, taking care of the health stuff that I had ignored, really just taking time to breathe again and learn how to a chance for my nervous system to come back down from all of that. And then I got a Facebook message on the night of March 21st of 2022 from my brother's neighbor. And she said, please call me. And I knew, when you pick up the phone. And I called her, and she said, I don't know how to tell you this, but they're both gone. And I said, she killed him. My brother's wife murdered my brother and then took her own life. It's something you don't ever expect you're going to have to deal with in life. So having that unexpected loss, that tragic loss, that traumatic loss, my brother died from gun violence. He died because his wife of 42 years was mentally ill and didn't get the help that she needed. And he died because he chose to stay. A lot goes into that.
Yeah.
And for that moment, for me, it's surreal, because all of a sudden, yes, there's a part of me who is on the floor crying and screaming.
Right.
And there's another part going, is this my life now? Is this,
Mm.
what do I do?
When does it end? Right? Like,
When does it end?
when does all
How
this?
do I just
Yeah.
get through this? I'm telling my children that their uncle is dead. I have to call my daughter, who's on the East Coast, right? And all of a sudden, I'm on a phone call with the sheriff. Like, what world did I just enter? That was probably the most pivotal experience of my life, of losing my brother. And his picture's here. So,
And you'd think, like, if we look on paper, you've experienced so much loss
yeah,
that if we look on paper, you're like, oh, well, just here's another one. Like, I feel
here's
like
another one.
so many people be like, well, she knows how to do that. She went through that. But the circumstances brought you to your knees,
Oh,
essentially, right?
gosh.
Like, you're like, I don't know anything
Absolutely.
now at this point.
Yeah, because, you're not prepared for this.
No,
And
no one should ever be prepared for that. I
exactly.
don't think that
Exactly.
I don't think that that's something that society needs to teach us to be prepared for. I think that that stuff needs to be eradicated in its own way.
Right.
But yeah, I can imagine the because I heard in what you said that I don't know if you attached anything to this. I have a friend who's experienced something similar to this who attached something to this in which you said my brother died because he chose to stay. And was there a piece of you that had this like another emotion of like anger or feeling towards the fact that
Oh,
he stayed?
gosh. There's so much wrapped into this.
Right.
Yeah. Because this was a this was a planned event
Mm,
by my sister-in-law. And so I had to deal with lawyers. I was thrown into this. They lived in Kansas. I lived in California. And so I was flying out to be there to handle everything, as the only one left in the family. And I knew, like, it was a very conscious thing to go, if I walk into that community that knew both of them, that didn't understand what was going on, if I walked in there holding this anger, toward my sister-in-law, one, it wouldn't be how my brother would handle things. So I wouldn't honor him. And I'm going into this community who's grieving. So it was a very conscious decision to go, okay, and what I know about anger and what my own personal belief is, if I am if I'm directing any negativity or anger at someone else, the only person it's going to hurt is me. It's not going to hurt her. She's dead. And even if she wasn't, it wouldn't hurt her. It's only going to destroy my life.
Right.
And my thought process in that moment was, she's already taken everything from me. I'm not going to give her my life. I refuse to give her my life. So it really created this space for me to walk into that community and hold, one, tell the truth about what happened, but do so in a loving way that I knew would honor how my brother lived his life. But I really had a hard time with this whole thing of, why didn't you leave? Why did you sacrifice your life? So angry at my brother. And that's where really the tools that I learned saved my life and saved my sanity. Because it's not the
But
moment
those are
was,
valid feelings.
oh,
It's not, and I think we sometimes pull on this
absolutely.
shame like, oh, this person has died. I cannot be angry with decisions because they're dead, and it's
Oh
your
no.
feelings were so valid.
Yeah. And so I've had to work through a lot of anger on this, a lot of anger toward my sister-in-law for doing the things that she did, not just the murder and suicide, but also the legal mess that she had kind of put in motion before all of this. I had all of that to deal with. And the surprising thing was so much anger at my brother. And because of the tools that I know through the Grief Coach Academy that we teach others, I use for myself, it was this thought, we have the moment that happens, and that's painful. And then the suffering, and you alluded to this earlier, the suffering comes about from our thoughts, because we relive it over and over and over. And that's every time we relive it over, we're traumatizing ourselves. We're bringing what happened in the past forward and we're recreating it. Our bodies don't know the difference between, is it happening now or did it happen then? If I'm thinking about it, I'm feeling it. So my body's going to react as if it's happening now. And I really had to work through the anger that I had.
How did, because I mean, you've listed so many losses and so many big shifting pieces, even down to when you were a child and we're like, let's talk about the fact that this chaos is happening. No, and then your father dying and, you finding that new little crack and all these other losses. How did this one change you? Because it sounds like you were building so much of your capabilities and finding yourself in all these moments. How did this one
Hmm.
change you?
This one, there was a moment because I was still struggling with self-worth. It really was, and belief in myself and my own worthiness and my own self-love. When and I don't know exactly when this happened, but I remember the words in my head of, Audrey, get over this shit. You have things to do.
Hmm.
It was very clear of like, you're done with that now. Like, you don't have time to waste on this pity party that you're having for yourself.
Yeah.
Might be valid, but you don't have time to waste. Done.
Things
Over
to
it,
do.
done. And I have things to do, because I had a community that was in crisis and in pain, who were coming together in such a beautiful, loving way for me, that I needed to show back up for myself and for them. Like, if I'm here to heal, and serve, which I truly believe, then how do I show up and heal and serve and honor my feelings, but also honor theirs? And, it was a very different thing. It really truly was this shift of like, stop thinking that you're not enough, Audrey. Stop thinking that you need one more degree or one more certification or one more whatever to validate
I've been there.
who you are in this world. Life has given you enough. And we all have that. We all have our stories and we all have our strength. And someone listening to this is going to realize that, oh, life brought me here.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't done to me, but it brought me here. And what are the strengths? What are the experiences that we've had, right? That bring us to these moments of like, now I get to choose what I'm going to do with this. And I think that's a really important distinction because we think so many times, and I was there in many parts of my life, and I'm sure some of your listeners are there now, of going, what do you mean I have a choice? I don't have a choice in this. You don't have a choice in what we experience, but we truly do have a choice in how we attach meaning to it, how we choose to move through it. Are we going to choose to move through it with love or pain? It's fear and love, right? And I just don't want to live my life like that. I did for a long time. It doesn't work for me. And it doesn't serve their memories. It doesn't serve the world at large. It doesn't serve me and my children. So it really is this sense of, it has given me this drive to go, their deaths were for me, to bring me to this point so that I can talk about the hard things in life. So I can talk about grieving and heartbreak and loss in a way that is straight head on, let's dive in and deal with this rather than deny it.
Yeah. I mean, I think also this ability to find the self compassion and the self love that maybe you were lacking a little bit of, by finding that, it seems like you would be even better prepared and helpful to those that you're aiming to help through their own grief journey. Because I think when we're not fully in love with what we are and what we offer, it's not as genuine or it's not as helpful to the other people because, we're humans, we can see through some things, and we can see that something. So do you find that this self-compassion and self-love has helped you help other people more effectively?
Oh, absolutely. Because I think until we can heal ourselves, we can't really help another, right?
Well, we could if
And
we used a
we,
book
we
or we had like
I
a
don't know,
checklist.
maybe, but even that is just so surface,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
whatever, you're just, here's a band-aid.
I'm sure you hear from people that are in their grief journey wherever they are and they're just like, tell me how to do it. And
Yeah,
it's like, well, I mean, I don't know if I can tell you exactly how you should do it because
right.
everyone's experience is different, but here's what worked for me or here's what worked for so and so. Is that what you guys kind of do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because everybody's experience is different and valid, and no one grieves in the same way. You've got some people who, just want to crawl in a hole. Some people who turn to drugs and alcohol or other destructive behaviors because they're just trying to get through their day. Other people who disconnect from the world. And I think I've done all of that, trying to get through all the things that I've had. And what truly has helped me is having someone there as a guide and having this community of people who have gone through the Grief Coach Academy in my cohort and everybody else, and having Aurora there to go, let me walk with you. Like, I can't take this on. No one can take on your own healing, but I can walk with you through it, and I can hold the hope for you, because if I can get through what I've gotten through, I know you can get through what you have. And I'm here to help you love yourself. I'm here to help you, you know, really look at what kind of life do you want to create and what's going to best serve you.
I like that. I think it's very important. The more I do the show and the more that I share portions of my story and my grief journey, both losing my mother and then my grief journey after losing my grandmother. A lot of people will come to me when something in their life happens. And I'm just like, what I've learned now is that I can't tell you how to do this. But what I do tell people, because there's nothing right to say at that moment, really, but I tell them what works for me is to acknowledge however you're feeling at any moment in time and realize that that's okay. That,
Yeah.
you know, you can both be sad, but also find something funny on TV. And you shouldn't take shame because you laughed so soon after so and so died, or, and just to acknowledge those feelings and be okay with them for however long they need to be there, and
Yeah.
and that acknowledgement for me has helped me move through them, right? Because I detach the shame, I detach those pieces. And so people come to me, I'm like, I don't have the rules for you, but I will be here. I'm here if you need me. But this one piece of advice is just be okay with however you're feeling at any moment in time, because you're human and there's no telling what's going to bubble up or if that fire is going to be out or on or whatever it may be. And all of it's valid.
It's all valid. And it's so important to, you know, acknowledge where we're at and accept it, and but also to express all of our emotions. And this is part of the peace method that I use and we teach, and can really help others, is that idea of really expressing our emotions. Like when I was going through dealing with that thought about my brother, it was like I needed to fully feel and express everything, and all the anger that I had, I couldn't get to like accepting it until I had expressed it all.
Can't push it
And
down.
like empty it out, empty it out, empty it out. And you know what? It's going to come around again. Oh, God, I thought I did this already. And it's like, all right, there's another level that I need to dig out and express and get out so that I can accept things. And maybe there's a greater truth. And what I got to is, he would have willingly sacrificed his life for anybody. He willingly sacrificed his entire life living with a woman who had mental illness, who he knew from day one. He chose to stay. And as much as it's painful for me, and I may not have chosen the same path, I can accept the fact that he lived his life in his integrity and in his values. And that acceptance and that knowing that even to the moment that he died, he was choosing that. And one thing that was so incredibly painful, but I'm so blessed now that I got to see this, is she killed him a few days before her birthday. When I got to Kansas and I'm going through their house, I found the birthday card that he had written to her that he was to give her in 3 days. And it still said, "When I look at you, I see the woman that I fell in love with."
Mm.
He chose to stay, even though it was incredibly hard and he lost so much of his own life due to really focusing on her and what she needed and making her life okay. But that's who he was as a person. It's not my job to deny that or not accept that.
No, I think there's a lot of value in that, and I think it comes with a lot of self-awareness and experience and the things that you've gone through that have kind of taught you those things. I like to kind of wrap up these conversations with a question that I kind of ask everyone, and I'm wondering if, knowing what you know now about your own journey and the things that you've experienced, if you could go back to the little version of you that was told to kind of keep quiet, we're not talking about the hard things. Is there anything that you'd want to say to her about this journey?
Mm, don't let go of your fire because it's going to serve you. And I know it's hard right now, but I've got your back. So you're not alone. It feels like you're alone, but you're not.
I think you might have heard it because you kept
Yeah.
that fire, you kept it burning. I think that little girl heard someone telling her, like, this is going to serve you. Don't let go of it, because so many of us, like I said earlier, Would have let that water that everyone threw on it, just let it burn out and we move on to something else. So, that little girl kept it going, and it's really served you well. And I just appreciate you sharing this story. If people want to learn more about like what you offer in this experience through who you are, just want to connect with you and tell you their story or tell you something about your story, what's the best way to get into your orbit?
Going to my website, which is www.griefcoachacademy.com or www.audreylaurawhite.com. Either way gets to me. I'm also on Instagram at Grief Coach Academy or Audrey Laura White. You can find me on LinkedIn, kind of pretty much
Everywhere.
all the social platforms.
What's your
And
MySpace?
oh, yeah, no, but but they can also, when they're on my website, we have 5 free videos that they can sign up for to receive that gives them a taste of what we do at the Grief Coach Academy. That, I can go through the peace method here, but what's going to be most effective is for people to go, well, what is that? And how do I find peace in my life? Go to my website and download some videos. Go to my website and book a call with me, or come on Wednesday nights and let's have a conversation about what's alive in you and what's what is the most present thing that you're dealing with, so that we can be there together. Community is so important when you're grieving, and so important as we're going through the hardships in life, to know that you're not alone and we've got you.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, and I hope that if you're listening and you're in that space, or someone that is, that you will send this episode to them and connect them with the Grief Coach Academy and all the things that you're doing. I think it's so wonderful, and you're kind of using that light that little girl had, and kind of just helping others light their own candles in a way so
Absolutely.
that they can serve themselves. So thank you for being a part of this.
Matthew, thank you so much. This has been truly a blessing to be here this morning. I so appreciate you.
Well, thank you. If you are listening and you're enjoying these episodes, if you would share it with a friend or do a review, 5-star rating, whatever floats your boat, I would love that. And I will be back next week with a brand new episode of the Life Shift podcast. Thanks again, Audrey. For more information, please visit www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com.